Hi everyone, it's Tish with Naptime Creations. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe. It's free and it'll help me out a lot, so hit that subscribe button. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's more like a tutorial, so let's jump in and get started. We're going to be trying out this resin kit from S RESIN. It is a 44-ounce resin kit, and it comes with basically everything that you'll need to do your first resin pour. It actually comes with this set of mica powders. It's got all these different colors in there. I will say, when I personally work with resin, I do use a half mask 3M respirator, and it has organic vapor cartridges. I always use a respirator when I work with resin, so I will link the one I use down below. Obviously, this kit does not come with a respirator, but I do recommend wearing one when you do work with resin because it is a chemical. So just wanted to throw that out there as well. So it comes with their epoxy resin. It's got 22 ounces part A and 22 ounces part B. Their resin is a 1-to-1 ratio. It comes with these mixing cups, little mixing cups for your pigments, stir sticks, gloves, and these bigger cups are nice because it actually has the ml and ounces marked on the side of the cup, so you can use these to measure and mix up your resin. And it also comes with these stir sticks, plastic sheeting to protect your table, these cute little spoons for the mica powders, and it comes with a scraper as well. So everything you would need to do resin is in this kit except the respirator mask. Like I mentioned, I'll link the one I use off Amazon down below. So I'll be sure to link this kit down below if you want to check it out. Their resin is really easy to use and it has a nice long working time, so it's great for beginners. We're going to measure out our resin. Today we're actually going to be making a flower coaster with this resin. This resin is a 1-to-1 ratio by volume. So I'm actually going to be mixing up a little bit more. So I'm using this big 4-cup measuring cup. I'm mixing up 16 ounces total. So I just poured in 8 ounces of my part B and 8 ounces of my part A. I was working on quite a few projects at once, but if you just wanted to make one coaster, you would only need 4 ounces. So you would do 2 ounces part B, 2 ounces part A, making 4 ounces total. So I'm just going to finish pouring in my part A, and then we're going to mix up our resin. And I know that this kit does come with the wooden stir sticks, but when you're mixing up your resin, I actually do not recommend using those because they're not treated, so they can leak air when you're mixing up your resin. So I like to use a silicone spatula. You can get these off Amazon. I'll link them down below. I like to use these because I found that they work better to reduce bubbles. So I recommend using this instead of the wooden stir sticks. And we're just going to mix this up for 5 minutes. And you want to mix slowly. You don't want to really whip it up and introduce a bunch of air in there. You just want to mix slow. And you're really trying to incorporate those parts A and B together. You want to scrape the sides of your cup, scrape the bottom of your cup, scrape off your stir stick, and we're going to mix this for 5 minutes. And you're just going to want to mix slowly, really, really slowly. And you can see it looks kind of cloudy. There's striations and kind of like stringy lines all over inside my cup. After you mix for 5 minutes, it's going to look like this. It's going to be nice and clear, and you're not going to have the cloudiness or the striations and stringy lines in your cup. And that's how you know your resin is mixed. We're going to be using a little bit of white for our flower, so we're going to mix that up right now. I poured in 1 ounce of clear into this little cup here, and we're going to be using Angel White epoxy paste for our white. It's my favorite to make flower coasters. I'll link it down below. And when I mix this up, I mix it up the same way every single time. I take my stir stick, mix up the product inside the container, scrape off my stir stick on the side of the container, and only use that tiny bit that's left on my stir stick. And then I mix, mix, mix. I know I mentioned the wooden stir sticks. The wooden stir sticks I've noticed are fine when you're mixing up pigments. I just don't like to use them when I'm mixing up my pot of resin or, my clear basically. I like to use the silicone for that, but I found the wooden stir sticks aren't bad when you're mixing up pigments like this. So I just mixed up my resin or my white, and then I'm just gonna take that stick out and I'm going in with a new stick and just making sure that that white is 100% mixed up. I just do this step because if you don't mix up your white all the way, you'll get like stringy patches of white in there. So I like to go in with a new stick that I didn't use to get the product out of the jar and just give it a mix for like an extra 30 seconds just to make sure it's 100% mixed. So I just went in and poured in some clear into the mold. So I just poured in 2 ounces of clear into my mold, and here I'm going in with the silicone paintbrush and I'm just dislodging any bubbles. Bubbles really like to cling to the perimeter of your silicone mold, so I do recommend getting a set of silicone paintbrushes. You can get these off Amazon. They're not very expensive. They're really great to use for projects like this because they don't damage your mold or scratch your mold, and you can dislodge bubbles really easily. I was just grabbing it from the perimeter of the mold, dragging it to the center, and that actually pops the bubbles. Doing that action pops the bubbles really nicely. Or you can go in with your heat gun and just blast the bubbles and that will pop them as well. We're going to use a little flour for the center of our coaster. I just placed it down in the center and pushed it underneath that resin. You do want to be careful though because these flowers are fragile, so you don't want to rip the petals. I did have a little bit of the petal break off on this one, but I just pushed it back up to the flower and it was fine. You might get a few air bubbles too when you drop these flowers down. You can just scoop them out and wipe them on your wax paper. I like to work over wax paper because the resin peels right off the next day when it is dry. Now we're going to drop down some alcohol inks. I'm going to add 8 drops of this magenta from S RESIN, and then I'm going to take my little silicone paintbrush and swirl those inks around just to blend the color a little bit. And now we're going to go in with that white that we mixed up. And I was just going to do kind of like a cinnamon roll swirl, starting on the outside, the perimeter of the coaster, and then working my way in towards the center. And I did slightly underfill my mold, and I will get into that here in a few minutes after we're done pouring this white. But you can see I just kind of went up to that flower with my white. I didn't go over the flower. I just didn't want to go over the flower with the white because I didn't want the white to sink down and cover up the flower. So I was trying to avoid going onto the flower with that white. But I was just pouring all that white that we mixed up, the entire 1 ounce, and I did have a few little blobs of the white kind of go down, so I'm just going to take my silicone paintbrush and smooth those out a little bit, and that's it. I'm not going to add any heat to this with my heat gun. I'm not going to torch this at all. I'm just going to leave it, and this is what it was looking like 1 hour later. I went to check on it to see how it was looking, and it really already looked like a beautiful flower. I couldn't believe it. We didn't really do much at all except pour into the mold. So I was really excited to see how this one was going to turn out. Here we are the next day, and we're going to fill the mold up the rest of the way with some clear resin. And we're going to use this cute little resin foil in the center of our flower. This is why I like to slightly underfill my molds because I was really liking how the top of this coaster was looking. So when you do it this way, you could always add a little bit of clear like we're doing right here and use either side as the top of your coaster. You could use this top side or the bottom side because you can have an idea of how the underside's going to look, but you never really know until you get it out of the mold. So I like to do this and it is easier to go in and do this clear layer when everything is still in the mold. So I like to just kind of slightly underfill my mold on that first pour. I know it takes an extra day, but it's a lot easier to do this when it's still inside the mold. So I just poured my clear in there and I'm going to drop down that resin foil, push it down, making sure that it's completely covered with resin and there's no air bubbles trapped underneath it. And here I'm just spraying a little bit of 91% isopropyl alcohol. That is going to pop bubbles. I just added a few little mists. I have 91% isopropyl alcohol in a spray bottle in my workspace, and that was it. I just let it dry for 24 hours, and here we are ready to demold it. I was so excited to see how this turned out because I really loved how this top side was looking. And resin foils are just images printed on craft plastic. They come on a sheet. I'll link the ones I like to use down below. You can get them off Etsy, and you just basically cut around the image that you want to use, and then you can cast it in your resin pieces. Super easy to use these. I really like actually both sides of this coaster. This one here, the white kind of went up over the flower, which is what I was trying to avoid, but that's okay. I still think it turned out pretty, and this was honestly so easy to make. Great technique for beginners. I'll be sure to link everything I used down below in the description box, along with any coupon codes that I have. This kit is really awesome. It has everything you'll need to get started with resin. Here's how it's looking in some better lighting. I do all of my resin in the garage, so the lighting is not the best out there, but I really love how this top side turned out, and I like the bottom side too, but let me know which side is your favorite down in the comments. Do you like this top side with the resin foil or the bottom side with the real flower? Let me know if you guys have any questions down in the comments. I really liked working with the Let's Resin resin. I would say it's like a medium to low viscosity resin. Doesn't have a ton of bubbles, which is nice, and it's great if you're a beginner because it has a nice long working time, so you don't feel rushed. When you're first starting out with resin, sometimes if you have a resin that has a fast working time, it's not the best because you can feel really rushed. So it's great. I would say that this is great for beginners. I'll be sure to link the kit down below along with my coupon code. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, leave me a like, hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and go check out a few more of my other videos. That would really help me out a lot. I'll see you soon for another video. Bye guys.